good morning. I'm Jennifer East, the Director of Business Development with the Keystone Center and the Keystone Extended Care Unit. And I'm accompanied today by Dr. David Pellick, the Director of the Keystone Center Extended Care Unit. Welcome,
Hello.
David.
Thank you.
Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about what the need for inpatient treatment for sex addiction may look like. How do you know if you're going to require inpatient treatment for sex addiction? So, David, how does one know when outpatient sex addiction treatment is not enough?
Well, sometimes it's a gut feeling, if you could be honest with yourself. And sometimes it's your wife, spouse, partner telling you you need treatment. Actually, we often have people that have been to therapy for a number of years, maybe with a certified sex addiction therapist or not. Their therapist might tell them, hey, something else is going on. I think you need like a bolus of medication. So go, once a week isn't working. Go for treatment where you can be treated 24 hours a day, 42 days, 30 days, and really get the help that you need. Address all of your issues at once. The compulsive behavior, the trauma. There's also warning signs. So there's websites have a 20-question questionnaire that you could answer. Do I need more of this behavior in order to achieve the same sexual results, same pleasure? Do I feel shame after I engage in the behavior? Is it increasing in terms of frequency? I do it more than once a day, more than once a week. Duration, I'm doing it for, engaging in the behavior or thinking about engaging in the behavior or planning to engage in the behavior for several times during the day, and it's interfering with my social life. I'm isolating more. And it could be also interfering with, definitely your marriage, your job, schoolwork. And finally, in addition to frequency, duration, there's intensity. So again, I need more of this behavior or a more intense level of this behavior. Once somebody is familiar with 12-step work, you are told about bottom line behaviors, and they are the behaviors that you want to eliminate, you want to cease engaging in. And I often hear men talk about, well, I had bottom line behaviors, I didn't know they were called bottom line behaviors, and I kept breaking them, violating them. So I kept telling myself, well, I don't have a problem until I do this. And then they do that. And then, well, maybe I don't really have a problem until I do this. And then they do that. It might be that they got caught, they got a social disease or an STI, wife found something, they missed work, their boss said something to them, but something's happening and they're realizing, yeah, this is indeed interfering with my ability to perform my daily activities, my work. Sometimes people stop taking care of themselves physically. They, don't bathe as often. They don't brush their teeth, they're isolating, they're just into their addiction. It's problematic. Also, it's not uncommon for us, people are going to meetings, 12-step meetings, S-related 12-step meetings, such as Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, or Sexaholics Anonymous, and there might be someone in the program that has gone to treatment, and they might say to the person, you know what, you've been coming here a while, or not. You sound like me when I started coming to meetings, and I know I fought it maybe, or I didn't, but I eventually needed treatment. And that's often a way that we get referrals. Somebody in their 12-step groups told them, I think you need additional help.
David, what are some of the things that our clients have said to you that made them decide to go inpatient?
Well, there's a good question. There's a number. A lot of times I really didn't like who I was. The shame was overwhelming. And sometimes there's no shame. Sometimes it's a spouse, wife, partner who says, I can't take this behavior anymore. Sometimes we'll get people that, it's not the behavior that's the problem. It's the fact that I got caught. And a lot of times when those guys, come for treatment, they realize, yeah, it's not, I have a problem. And I tried to hide it. I tried to compartmentalize my behavior, and it just didn't work. So often it's when a relationship, they see that their children no longer want to, they don't have the relationship with their children that they would like to, Someone at work has called them on their behavior. They've lost jobs, and they might blame it initially on the boss, the company. But, when you've lost the second job because you haven't been attentive to your duties, or you were caught looking at pornography during work hours or on work computer, then that becomes a problem. But I would say most of the time it's a therapist says, this isn't working, you need help. Or, sometimes people there'll be a knock on the door from police. There could be a number of things. Unfortunately, a lot of people, it happens too late. And it would be great if people could come into treatment beforehand, before things get really out of hand. But it is a commitment.
David, how many of the individuals that we treat would you say were in primary outpatient before they came to us?
Oh, I would say at least, I'd say half to 3/4. Some of them have maybe just started. Some of them have been in treatment years ago, but stopped. Sadly, those that have been in treatment, and it could be individual, it could also be a group, or sometimes it's marriage counseling, couples counseling. A lot of times, though, we hear that, yes, I talked about other issues. I never talked about my sex addiction. I never told my therapist anything about my sex addiction. And something came up, or they questioned me, and they weren't trained to deal with a sex addiction. So they said, they referred me to someone else, or they referred me for inpatient treatment.
Okay. Some of the individuals that we have treated over the years have been an outpatient for 2 years and gone to meetings. They're asking, why are my behaviors still out of control?
We have, there's a saying, we use it in our relapse prevention plan, HOW, H-O-W, but that's a 12-step term: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So someone could, our guys will always say, yes, I'm going to go to a meeting a day they're encouraged to attend a 12-step meeting once a day, minimally, for 90 days post-discharge. And a lot of them have gone to meetings, as you said, but they haven't been honest in their meetings. They've been, and shame, shame can overwhelm people. I can't say that. Or I've been coming to these meetings for months, and how could I tell them that I just had an affair when I couldn't share, months ago that, I was just looking at pornography. And now that, and I lied about that. So a lot of times people are going to 12-step meetings. They might not get a sponsor. They might not be honest. They might not really use the meetings. You want to have a home group, a home meeting. That's the meeting that you go to definitely each week, and you might know more of the people there. But you want to really utilize those tools. So you want to make phone calls. There's a saying, the 500-pound telephone. It's very difficult for people to make phone calls. So it's important to use all those tools, as I've said, make phone calls, and not just make the phone calls, but be honest, tell them how you're doing, tell them what struggles you might be having, be honest, open, and willing at meetings. So share, be transparent, tell them all about what you're experiencing, and be open when someone says, hey, you might want to try this, or maybe you need to attend more meetings. At least be open to thinking about it, and then be willing to do what you need to do. So if I need to be at more meetings, I'm going to go to more meetings. If I need to make more phone calls, I am willing to go to more phone calls. If I need to work on one of my steps more, do more writing, I'm going to do that. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I have to go to a meeting. And I encourage people to tell themselves, I want to go to a meeting. When I feel as though I have to do something, I have to put the trash out, it really doesn't make it sound like it's much fun. But when I realize I want to take the trash out because I don't want bugs, I don't want my house to stink, then I'm more willing to do it. People tell themselves, yeah, I want to go to a meeting. And it's not easy going to a meeting, especially if you had a slip and you need to share that. But when you feel comfortable at meetings and you've made friends and you've got a recovery community, it does make meetings more fun. You'll want to go. You'll want to hear how other people are doing. You will want to make an impact on new people by just showing up at a meeting and being honest. They say go 20 minutes early, stay 20 minutes late, and they can become friends. And a lot of people, I think, forget that. Though they're my people for my sobriety, but they can also become people for, as I call it, aftercare. I need somebody to take me to the doctor. I'm lonely. I want to go out to dinner with someone. Maybe it's not directly related to my recovery, but I want somebody to talk to about something else, a decision I have to make about work or whatever. Or I just want to go out and have fun. I want to, be with someone and, I don't know, go bowling, go hiking, do whatever. So these people can become friends, appropriate friends. I often joke that, but it is serious. One of our questions in our relapse prevention plan is why develop a recovery community? And I, often remind the guys, if you call a friend of yours who isn't in recovery and say, hey, I'm really thinking of masturbating, I'm nervous, or I want to look at pornography, a friend isn't going to understand. And they might say, yeah, well, that's, I've done that, sure, go ahead. And someone from program will take it very seriously. What do you need? What's really going on? And they'll talk to you. So going to meetings and really being present at meetings, making the phone calls, maybe, eventually doing service. That's what really helps people, get the help they need in 12-step meetings. And also going to therapy. We recommend people seeing a certified sex addiction therapist. They've received a lot of training, a lot of supervision. Each module, there are 4 modules that you need to complete. Each one is almost, it's about 4 or 5 days to complete. And there's a lot of training and a lot of work. And one CSAT will know, if you, when you come for treatment here and we refer you to a CSAT, they'll know what we mean when we talk about, the assignments, and they'll know the lingo, they'll understand what we've done. So yeah, you need to go to the right therapist. And it's not about hiding. It's not about being afraid to share. A lot of people are afraid to share. I don't want to open up a can of worms. I don't want to talk about my trauma. I've gotten over it. I don't think about it. And I think that's another problem where people think everything's going okay. Then something happens. You're reminded of the trauma. You can't hold it in. You're acting out because of your trauma. And a lot of times that's why it just doesn't work in outpatient.
So what will an inpatient treatment provider provide me with that outpatient cannot?
24-hour care. And that's important because, when you're with a therapist can't be with you 24 hours a day, and nor should they. You want to be weaned. You want to be able to be self-supportive. But initially, when you're going through the trauma, the addiction, withdrawal, you need someone there 24 hours a day to be with you, help you through it, and know that you're going to be okay. We, at one point, were one of the few treatment facilities that treated trauma and addiction simultaneously. And it is very important to treat the trauma. And a lot of people understand that they've been traumatized, but like I previously said, they don't think about it. They don't see how it's affecting them, so they think everything's okay. A lot of times people they might, yes, I guess that was sort of kind of traumatic, but, traumatic with a little t. It wasn't that significant. It didn't affect me. Yes, I will admit that occurred, but it happened to everyone in my family, everyone in my community. It was common where we grew up, when I grew up. The trauma can be very, very difficult to help people to feel comfortable opening up about. And then once it's opened up, once the wound is opened up and you're cleaning it out, you have to be there for that person. And that's why I think it's important to have inpatient treatment, especially for significant trauma. And a lot of our guys, I'd say at least 95%, have shared that they've experienced significant trauma, sexual, physical, emotional. It's an intimacy disorder. And if you didn't get the, correct nurturing or I don't know, you got mixed messages growing up from parents, from family, from caregivers. A lot of times it's difficult for you to relate to other people, to feel comfortable with yourself, with other people. And as a result, you just isolate. You stay by yourself. You don't open up. You don't express yourself. If I express myself, people aren't going to like me. So when you're in a treatment facility, you are surrounded by other men and you're living with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're sharing stories, life histories, victims lists. You're eating together. You go on outings together. It's a lot, but it helps you to break through that, to start to break through the intimacy issues. I often tell our guys that, the guys here might know more about you than anyone else in your life, yet they might not know your last name, and they don't need to know your last name. It's not uncommon once people leave to use terms like, oh yeah, he's my brother, this is my family, and they haven't been able to connect as a family, as a nuclear family with their actual biological or adoptive family members. And yet when they come to inpatient treatment and they've allowed themselves to open up, hear other people opening up to them, depend on other people, have other people depend on them, it's a lot easier to make that connection, start to be intimate, be vulnerable. I think that's one of the biggest things that people can get when they come for inpatient treatment. Being with other people, knowing that other people have had similar experiences. I remember one time we had a man and it was his second day and somebody was sharing their life history in a group. And this man was about 50 or 60s. And he began to cry in group and he was crying and, to the point where I wanted to make sure he was okay. So I asked him, is everything all right? What's going on? I, interrupted the person who was sharing their life history. And the man said, yes, I am actually very well. I was so frightened. I knew I would have to share my life history when I came here. And yet I never knew how I was going to share the fact that I was involved in incest. And I've held that. I can't even remember whether he has told his wife. I think the only person that ever knew about that would have been his wife. I don't think he ever talked about it in therapy. Hearing this other person share that he had been a victim of incest just relieved all of this. He thought he was an anomaly. It was just him. He was, a lot of shame and all that he makes up that goes with it being, was it my fault? So there's a lot that goes on when you're working with other guys 24 hours a day and, working as a team. Our guys are fantastic. They will come to me, come to their therapist. I'm a little concerned about so-and-so. They encourage, feedback from their peers and they receive feedback from their peers. And rarely is there any animosity or they accept it. And it's not uncommon for our guys to say, something like, oh, well, the groups were so helpful. It was one of the most helpful things that I experienced here. When I hear another guy give me feedback or talk about a topic, I know that they've experienced it. So I know, they're one of us. When a therapist says something, at first I have to admit it's always, well, they're just saying that because they're a therapist. So I always get a chuckle out of that. But I think the group experience is very helpful for our guys.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate your insight on this topic and just kind of talking to us about it today. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Actually, one more thing to add. Our guys, I talked about, brotherhood. Our guys have formed a strong alumni group. In fact, they've started their own 12-step meetings. We have our clients do a good morning group, a good night group, and it's just the clients themselves. It isn't led by a facilitator. And that's the very first group that they do in the morning, 8 o'clock. And they share how they're doing physically, spiritually, emotionally. They share their bottom lines, affirmations. And as I said, our guys will continue doing this when they leave our facility. And it's not, we have, quarterly alumni Zoom get-togethers. And that sense of camaraderie, togetherness really lasts even when they leave. And the transformation is incredible. Some people are just so quiet, withdrawn. They're so used to being isolated, so used to being so burdened with the shame, not feeling as though they will be accepted by others. And then by the end of the group, when I look out my window and see them playing football, frisbee, whatever it is they're doing, it's just a wonderful feeling. To me, it's a big part of growth with their recovery.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
If you would like to learn more about how Keystone Center ECU can help you or a loved one, visit us online at keystonecenterecu.net or call us today at 833-690-6100.